don't just go for that hour that you're speaking. Go for the day, go for the 2 days, and meet as many people as you can. And you're not necessarily get hired on the spot, but get that business card, follow up with them. I think it makes a big difference. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
Welcome back to the Marketing for Speakers podcast. I'm your host, Jake White, and today I'm on a Zoom call with Elaine Simpson. Elaine, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good. We're having a bit of a laugh for some technical / human errors. So let's get started. Elaine, can you tell us about your amazing self?
My amazing self, huh? Well, started in 1967. I'm just kidding. I don't go back that far. But I will tell you that I am a triplet, born on Christmas. So I have a birthday coming up. And if anybody did the math, they know how old I'm going to be, but we don't need to say that number. And of the three of us, two of us are identical twins. And the other one looks more like you with the dark hair and things like that. So.
All right. That is fantastic. Yeah. What a cool fact. I did not know that about you.
See, now you know.
Now I know. And what do you do for a living? I can see occupant on the back of your, there we go. There we go. Yeah. Tell us about that. What is that?
Sure. Occupancy Solutions is a national company that provides support and training and services to property managers, primarily multifamily, some single family rentals, but our niche is really property managers, some apartment communities, anywhere from just 10 units on up to 1,000 or more. And we provide everything from leasing, marketing for programs that are related to like government housing or low income or Section 8. We provide compliance services for that. We do everything to support the on-site staff as well as some of the corporate. So we do have an HR specialist that works with the smaller companies that really don't need to have an HR full-time. And we do audits and things like that as well. So we started out as just providing leasing and marketing. And as clients trusted us and relied on us and came to us with challenges, they would ask us, do you do compliance or can you do a file audit? And I would be that person and go, yeah, sure. And then get on the phone, call somebody and go, okay, I need someone to do this, right? So it was just a matter of understanding what my clients needed and being able to say yes and being that go-to person, right? Anytime they had a problem, regardless of what it was, they would come to us. And so we also do training. We do a lot of fair housing, compliance stuff, which isn't the most exciting, but we really try to make it exciting. But, we do a lot of graphic design work, website stuff. Anything that's related to the property itself.
Okay. Wow. It sounds to me, when you listed up all the things that you can do, starting from leasing and marketing, that you have probably worked your tail off, like worked to the bone to learn all those things and build those networks from the moment of saying like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to figure out how to help you with that. And then calling someone, so maybe some late nights. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think the key is that I need to know enough to be able to discuss it with a client, but I don't need to be the control freak that does it all, right? And that's how it was at the beginning. I was like, I have to know how to do this. I have to do it all. I need to be there in person. I need to do it. And what I found is that, I've become kind of the face of the company and there's a lot that I do, but I quite frankly can't stand file audits. I can't stand compliance. I don't want to be that detail oriented when it comes to approving a file for a government program. That's not my thing. So I just make sure I surround myself with people that can provide those things and that I can trust and that I know will be professional and represent us well and take really good care of them so that when I call them up at 8:00 at night and go, I need you at a property tomorrow, they're willing to go. They get paid when they're supposed to get paid. We're here to help them for a variety of things. So it really is about the network, like you said, and treating that network well.
That's so important because I think specifically for this audience too of speakers, coaches, consultants, is that you think you have to do everything yourself. And if you view yourself as you do, which is I'm the face of the organization, I'm building relationships, I'm the person my clients trust, you realize I don't actually have to do the things I don't want to do.
Right.
So you
we don't want me doing some of those things because it would be a disaster.
Right? True honesty.
Right. I mean, like I do have some temps, like maintenance guys that go on property. And we don't want me messing with a furnace. That's probably not the smartest move we would make.
It's good to know that.
Yeah, don't ask me
Elaine,
to fix the dishwasher or anything like that.
yeah,
I
I'm
can
not
get the
gonna.
people to do that for you, but not me.
So I'll call you, but someone else is gonna show up.
That's right.
Okay, so I want to tell everybody that Elaine is an amazing speaker as well. And so I'm curious because we're going to talk more about this. I'm curious to dive into how much speaking is a part of it, how it got introduced. Yeah, how does speaking fit into your overall business model?
Well, let me give you a little bit of a backup on how the business started. Okay. I've been in property management for decades and really wanted to get into training and marketing, like have my own business. And there was someone that I knew in my market, this was in Michigan, that had been doing that. And I looked up to her so much and thought, oh my gosh, there's no way I could compete with that or even come close to it. Right. Um, then things got rocky in the economy, and it was before things really fell apart. But I worked for, at the time, as a developer for a high-end apartment community development company, and they were putting kibosh on all development. So I got laid off. And it was one of those, I was a single mom, and either it's do it or don't. And I decided, when else would I get around to doing this? So that's when and on top of that, I had an owner of a management company that I knew that needed some help and was kind of bugging me to help him out. And so that was how it all started. And so I really wasn't a speaker. And in fact, my mom would tell you that when I was a young girl, I was like that wallflower. Like I didn't talk to anybody, I was like, oh, don't make eye contact, right? It was horrible. And a lot of it was that my twin was very outspoken and was the center of attention. I mean, she just loved being the center. And so I was fine being behind the scenes, right? When I was on site as a leasing agent, that was my first job on site on property. I found that it was really easy to talk to people. And I started coming out of my shell. And I can remember a few years later, we were at a store and I started talking to the woman in the line next to me. My mom's looking at me going, what happened to you? You talk to everybody. Like I had to pay you to talk to people when you were young. And now you just talk to everybody. So whatever it was, I came out of my shell and found that I do like speaking and I do like talking to people. When I started my business, it was not necessarily to be a national speaker, but training is a huge part of property management. So I started out doing workshops and then I started getting asked to do keynotes and things like that. And I love doing that, but I didn't want to rely on it as my business. So I like to say I'm a business person who speaks as part of the business model. And after seeing what COVID did to so many speaker friends, I am very fortunate to have that foundation. So, it was tough, COVID time. I mean, I had every single speaking engagement canceled. And I was doing, at one point near let's say probably 2019, I was doing anywhere from 2 to 3 speaking engagements a week. I was on the road for 27 days straight at one point, and it's hard. And then that all stopped with COVID. Fortunately, I had contracts to do services and marketing and things like that. Things slowed down a little bit, but we still managed to get through. I really, really strongly urge people to come up with some sort of other income in their business if they are only a speaker, because that's where I saw many, many friends struggling, and it hurt to watch them go through that.
So I'm drawing from there exactly what you just said, which is to like, I urge you to develop another stream of income based on your expertise. And then something that you had mentioned in your story before is just listening to your client's needs. Is if there's something you can help with, give it a shot and do whatever it takes to figure it out.
In that aspect of it, like I said before, you don't have to be the person that does it all, but be the conduit between your client and that person. So I don't want to just say, hey, Jake, here's Susie, she can help you out. I want to remain in the conversation. I want you as my client to always come to me if you need something from Susie, or, I don't want to micromanage her necessarily, but I want to be in the loop. I want him to know, or you to know, that she is my person, right? You just don't want to hand them off because you'll never see them again. You do websites, right? So it's like the whole thing. Don't let them leave the page. Keep them on the website as long as possible. If they leave and go someplace else, or if you have an outside link and they leave and they don't come back, you won't see them again.
Yes. And I think that's maybe the biggest difference between what I see successful entrepreneurs doing and unsuccessful ones is what I see a lot is the ones who don't make it are trying to do everything themselves. They're kind of the timid to relinquish different things, but the ones who are doing it well, they view themselves as a company, which is, hey, I need to go beyond my abilities. And if I'm the person people are going to, it doesn't matter what they're hiring me for. I can still make money and make an impact and remain control of the relationship with what they need. And that's how every company, like large company, works. Is you go
Right.
to the brand, you go to Target for all these things,
Mhm.
and no, it's not the CEO that's there serving you.
Right.
It's everybody who he's hired and trained to help them. So if you view yourself that way, you can grow a more sustainable business. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say that you did, and why
Mhm.
your business lasted through, a pandemic and
Yeah.
like some hardships.
Yeah. And you have to be flexible. I know everybody talked about pivot, and I hate that word because we heard it so much over the last year and a half. But I believe we have to be flexible and, like you said, be able to read what your clients need and have those relationships, not just with your clients, but with your network. So, because we don't do everything all the time for our clients. So my HR person comes and goes with clients depending on what their needs are. But I need to know that she's going to be there when I need her for a client. So I need to maintain and nurture her and my relationship as well as my clients' relationships. So checking in with them, especially during the pandemic, I was calling my team. I have about 21 subcontractors that work for me, and I was calling them every couple of months to see how they are. And I loaned a couple of them money, advances and things like that because they were suffering. That's the relationship I have with them. Not everybody can do that. Finances may not be the situation that you can do that, but if you nurture them in the sense that they know you care and that you're doing everything you can to keep them busy and employed, then that's great. And the reason that they're subcontractors is because I never guarantee full-time employment to anybody. I can't, not with the business we have. And so it comes and goes, but most of them have enough work to work full-time for me.
Okay. So if there is somebody who's listening to this and they're like you, they've got a feel that they're really good at, and they want to strike out and help more people with it, maybe do it on their own, starting as a solopreneur and then building their own business. Is there some advice you would recommend if they want to leverage the stage, speaking or workshops? Like, how did you
Absolutely.
get in there? And what can someone do to leverage their expertise and get into those places?
Absolutely. And I won't lie, speaking does drive some business to me, but also my client drives speaking business to me. So it's kind of back and forth, right? Um, I would say probably associations, the apartment associations, there's local ones, there's regional ones, and there's national ones are probably the best bet to get in front of a larger crowd. And making sure that when you're in front of that crowd, that they know that you're not just a speaker,
Mhm.
that you do other things. That's one of the reasons that I make sure, when I talk about leasing, I talk about this is what we do when we're on site. Subtle things like that, so that the audience knows that we do that on site. I have a leasing team that will go on site, but you don't want to like be a hard sell either,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to sound like you're selling from the stage. So never do that. But just letting them know this is what we do. This is how we do it. And this is why we do it. So they know that we're not just teaching it, but we're actually doing it, which I think makes a big difference when it comes to clients looking for services or support. They go, "Oh, Elaine talked about that last week in our, marketing and outreach class, and we should give her a call and see if she can help us out." So I think it's important that not only getting in front of the right people, but also letting them know that you do other services, right? Not just being part of a bio. We don't want your bio read and just going, okay, whatever, yawn, you know, get on with the session. But, interweaving subtleties that let them know that you still do this. You do this now, you do it for clients. And I say it, we have a current client or we've had a client, those subtle hints tell people that we do other things than just speaking. I've also had clients that I work with, compliance, leasing, whatever we are doing, that call me up and ask me to come and speak at their annual event, or they need fair housing training or whatever. So I think it's important that you educate everyone, the associations, the audiences, and your clients on the diversity of what you can provide to them for services or speaking or whatever it might be. Getting that out there is important. The other thing I think is important is maintaining that relationship with your audience after the speaking engagement's over. So the easiest way to do that, because we're in such a niche, it really helps. But like we have a couple books. So we do a drawing at the end of the session for one or two books. And in order to get entered in that drawing, you have to provide a business card or, provide your name and email. And they agree that we can send them a newsletter. So we've got a pretty good database for newsletters. And so we send out a monthly newsletter. It's not a newsletter, I shouldn't say that. We call it the Multifamily Minute. And it's literally about 700-word article. And it's done once a month. And it's all property management related. And then we have a quarterly magazine that's digital that goes out as well. And that is focused on operations at the property level. There are magazines out there that focus on running multifamily companies, but not necessarily running a property. So we work with them to go ahead and educate them. So everything in the article or everything in the magazine are articles focused at the site level, running a property, saving money on utilities, whatever it might be, leadership, all those different things. Also, we've got a fun thing that we do that talks about staying healthy while working through, the issues at COVID on property, because those are frontline people, right? And they worked their butts off, and it was tough. They're still going through a hard time, but focusing on them as opposed to the CEOs and the COOs and things like that really has made a difference. And so it's nice because I can reach out to somebody or meet somebody at a conference and they go, oh yeah, we've heard about you, or we've heard about Occupancy Solutions, or I get your magazine or whatever. We stay in front of people that way, and it's not that hard to do.
Wow. So it sounds like you're pushing out a lot of content, which is great because you have trainings, workshops, speeches, and you have services. So not only are you able to help people with a variety of things, but you're also serving them when they're not paying you so that you can stay top of mind. I think a lot of people, they think they should do that, or they've heard they should do that. But I'm curious from your perspective is like, why is that such a good idea to keep up with the newsletter, or, you have the minute? Like, why is that so important?
Because I get phone calls. I get phone calls when a past client or somebody has never been a client of mine, so they've been in an audience or signed up for our newsletter, gets it and goes, oh, I just saw that you have an article on leasing and lease ups or whatever it might be. We have a lease up and we're struggling. What can you do for us? So it may not be a repeat client, but it definitely gets us in the door. It really just puts it out. It's one of those things that if you send one newsletter, they don't know who you are. They get it monthly. It's a quick read. It's not overbearing. It's not something we do every week, but it keeps them there. And we've been able to they may not know who I am, but they've definitely heard of Occupancy Solutions. And it helps because I've really niched down to who we serve, right? If I was trying to do any real estate, let's say a real estate salesperson at a brokerage firm, that's a different sales pitch than what I do, right? So I don't go after those. I stick to my lane. I stick to what I know and focus 100% on that. And I think that's been a huge, huge difference in our success compared to other people.
Definitely, because I think that you are kind of the multifamily go-to person then, because if someone has those units, they're thinking, oh yeah, I'm not going to go to a real estate expert. I'm going to the multifamily expert, which is Elaine. Occupancy Solutions, and they're getting the newsletters that are tailored to their type of property. That makes a lot of sense. People are hesitant to do that because they think that they're saying no to other clients by niching down so far. But I've seen the opposite is true. It's kind of like that saying that if you tailor to everyone, then you're really tailored to no one. You can't intimately get to know everyone's situation. That takes time, effort, relationships, and so you need to decide, hey, who am I most likely to resonate with? Who does my story serve? Who do I want to work with? Like, they're going to drive me crazy.
Right. There can be some of those you're like, no, stay away. but there's I think it's important that thinking of it as if I know if I have an ocean and I'm going after a certain type of fish, I know what type of bait to use, where to go, what kind of reel to use, all that, right? But if I'm just speaking on a very general topic to just anybody, it's like casting a huge net and hoping that something gets caught in it that's not a rubber tire or a boot or something like that, right? You really need to hone in who you're talking to so you can speak the same language. I'm fortunate because I've been doing it for so long and I can share some of the most horrific stories of being on property and some of the best stories of being on property. And interweaving those into my conversations with clients, my speaking engagements, things like that, helps them see that I've talked, that I've done it. I have cleaned bathrooms when I've got a move in coming in that my maintenance guys didn't get ready. I have painted apartments. I have gone out and done outreach and sucked at it and learned how to do it the right way. I mean, I've done it all. And so when I can talk about it, they know it. They know it by the way I talk about it, by the words I use, and there's no fake. I'm not somebody that speaks on a general topic that's trying to apply it to property management, right? I'm speaking on property management on leadership or whatever it might be. So I think that really does help. It helped us tremendously.
When you were starting out and you kind of pivoted from your leasing marketing company, started being asked to do maybe some speaking engagements, and you mentioned a point when you're like, I went into associations, or like you can dive into associations. Well, how do you approach an association to let them know that you're available? Is there a smart way to do it or a not smart way to do it?
Well, that's a tough one because I think it depends on the people of the association. I already knew a number of people in the industry. I mean, property management is very incestuous. So once you get in, it's like the blob, you never get out. So I was at actually many years ago speaking at an associate, I think it was Indiana or something like that. And a woman came up to me afterwards and we're both looking at each other like, I know you from someplace. Yeah, she was working on a property out in California that my company, when I was a leasing person, owned. And I went out there and did training for them. So, I mean, and that was probably 20 years earlier. So, I mean, that's how incestuous the industry is, which helps our business. But I think it's really important to identify key factors that you can bring in and really sell. Don't try to offer everything in the world at the beginning, right? And I think that's what we do as speakers. We're passionate about what we talk about. We want to do everything. We want to help everybody. But the reality is there's only so many hours in a day. There's only, one of you. And if you're going to try to do it all and do everything, it's not going to happen. So starting out as leasing and marketing and then adding as we needed. And there were times that I said at this point, we can't do that, right? But eventually we would be able to. And then I would let those people know that we started this group up or whatever it might be. But I think it's just really important to hone it in and figure it out.
I think that's a good point because there's a fine line between saying yes to something you're not equipped to do or you don't have the relationship, and then saying, oh, yes, I can find someone or I know someone. Because I think that happens in most of our businesses. When you're growing, you get into those uncomfortable situations, which is good. It's pushing your abilities and your company forward. And then what I've just found is that as long as you respond to someone immediately, letting them know they got your message,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll get back to them within 2 days or something, you can go figure out if this is where your company needs to grow. Like take a couple days to think on it. Would I enjoy expanding my company this way or moving my niche forward or deeper into this kind of service? Because there's the people that end up saying yes to something and then botching it. That's huge in the tech
Feeling it.
industry. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yes.
I think you have to put in, it's what I call the PETA factor, the pain in the butt factor for doing that, right? Is
Yeah.
it something that is it going to be just for this client this one time and you probably aren't ever going to do it again for another client? Is it really, I mean, unless they're paying you a boatload of money, is it really worth the effort and frustration and stress to try to do it? If it's something that you can incorporate into your regular business plan, then it probably makes sense. but you really have to think carefully about it because not everything we do. I mean, we have, there have been times I've said, no, we don't do that. We don't do there's these things called CNA, which are annual inspections for apartment communities. And usually they're done by architects. And I mean, they're really knowledgeable people. And we've been asked to do them. And I'm like, no, I can give you some names. And that's when I will really hand it off because that's just a job I don't want to be involved in. And I'd be a fool to try to do it. But I can definitely put you in touch with one or, something like that. So I think knowing what makes the most sense to, put your energy into and get the best bang for your buck, is it something you can use for another client? I mean, we've got forms galore that we use with clients that we've, tweaked as the years have gone on, but creating one form we know is going to be used in the future is well worth it. Creating one form that's probably only to be used once and not again, not so much. So,
Okay. Here's what I'm thinking is if there's someone out there they've got an idea for a niche.
mhm.
I'm assuming that since you started gradually, you had clients and you were in that space. If someone didn't have that, like, and you had to restart your business over again, how would you validate a niche and know that there's enough business there?
That's a very good question. I think if we knew the 100% answer to that, we'd all be millionaires. Uh, I don't have a full answer to that. I think research what's wrong to this niche first, right? Is it your previous experience? If so, that might be a good idea because you have connections, you have people that you know in the industry. Word of mouth is huge, and so you don't want to get into an industry just to get into it and not have any kind of networking support, not necessarily vendors or whatever, but just do you know people that need this service? Are they services that somebody's willing to pay for? Right? Or is this an area and expertise that they're willing to pay for a speaker? Because there are plenty of people that want speakers, but they don't want to pay. There are plenty of people that want work, but they don't want to pay. So if you're looking to make a living out of it, I think you really need to look at that carefully. And although you may be passionate about it, then let it be a hobby. Don't let it be your business. That's failure.
Yes, and that's a big difference. And I'm glad that you said that, is that's the difference between a hobby and a business, is that validation stage. And so if you're listening and you're in an industry and you know the money that comes in and comes out and how they're investing, and this is something like even I have another friend named Elaine, and she's a speaker,
Great name.
right? It's a good name. And she was telling me that she speaks to NFL, NBA, NHL, all these
I know
professionals.
which Elaine you're talking about because
Oh,
I
you
know her too. Yeah.
Oh, Elaine Pasco. Isn't she so cool?
Yes, she is. We've had a lot of dance parties at the national conferences. So
I believe that 100%. That is so fun.
yeah.
And what's so funny to me about her story is that she mentioned that they don't have money to pay her very much. So she uses that as the credibility piece, as her getting fun photos and saying, hey, listen, if the Broncos brought me in, then you can bring me in for your college athletes and they have budgets.
Right. And they look at her, not just the people, the meeting planners, but the college students, right? They go, wow, she works with the NFL, she works with the Broncos. So, and there is value. So getting paid doesn't necessarily mean a dollar figure, all right? There has to be value. So I have a rule, I don't speak for free except for 2 conferences a year. And those 2 conferences are affordable housing conferences. So these are, low income, typically what they call low income housing tax credit programs or whatever. And they don't have a lot of money for speakers. But I go in there and I do my raffle at the end of my speech, and I, know enough people there that I get business out of it every time I go. And you know what? And I know a lot of these people personally, so it's also nice to see them. So to me, that's value, right? I'm not getting a dollar figure, but I'm getting bang for my time.
Yes. Okay. There's gold there because I know people and they get booked solid because they're there. Like they go to the conference every year. And that's what's so crazy is if you have a niche, be at the conference, meet people,
Be present, be there, network with people. Don't just come in, go to your hotel room when it's, 20 minutes before you're supposed to speak, go speak and leave and come back. Have lunch with them. Go to other sessions, mingle with people, talk with them and figure out what their hurts are and how you can help them out. That's how you figure out what they need. So, don't just go for that hour that you're speaking. Go for the day, go for the 2 days and meet as many people as you can. And you're not necessarily get hired on the spot, but get that business card, follow up with them. I think it makes a big difference. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong.
Well said. Is there any parting advice you'd give somebody who's wants to grow their coaching, consulting, speaking business? It can be a recap of what you said or something different, but kind of a parting piece of guidance.
Sure. A couple things. One is look at it as a business, not as a speaking business, but as a business. Run it like a business. Have your budgets, have your plans, do that. It makes a big difference. The other is a softer side. Surround yourself with people that are doing similar things. We're in the association together because we want to speak, we want to be there. And getting that camaraderie and that tribe aspect, I think is a huge part of being successful. You need to be around people with like situations. They don't have to speak on the same thing. They may be more business than speaking or whatever, but they're still there with that same mentality. People think, oh, you're a speaker. Oh, it must be so luxurious. You get to travel all over the place. And let me tell you, it's not as luxurious as people think, right? So
Oh, it's not.
they have somebody to talk to and like exchange battle, field stories. I had to sleep on the floor at the, Dallas airport for 2 days because, we all have been there, but it's hard to explain it to somebody that's not part of that group because everybody else is like, what are you talking about? But you got to fly and you probably get to fly first class. And we're like, no, can't afford first class. I'm in the standby or the coach. So, okay. Yeah. So I think it's important to also have that aspect.
Yes. And I know for you and I, that community is the National Speakers Association. And I found as a newer member that it's very good to have people around you who are even the people that have been there for decades. And their number one priority is helping people like you and I who are younger and going into the field and doing these things that makes their day. They want to sit down.
They love to mentor. They do. And like you said, I call on them all the time. And I think that having that resource, having the community first, and having the resource where it's not only you and I that are chatting and exchanging horror stories, but being able to go to one of the people that have been in the business for 40 years and it's really good at it and going, how did you do that? Or how would you do this? Or what would you suggest? And they are so willing to do that. And we're fortunate to have that.
If anybody wants to get in touch with you to say hello or check out Occupancy Solutions, where can they go?
www.occupancysolutions.com or send me an email at esimpson@occupancysolutions.com.
Thank you so much, Elaine. This was a blast. I love learning about your niche, and I'll see you at the next NSA meeting.
Are you coming to the holiday party?
We'll talk. I should be there. Yeah.
Well, we'll see you then.
We'll have some Christmas cookies.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.